Cool. So we are gonna look through our Ramen Raider mock challenge. Ramen Rater, not Ramen Raider. It's something else. Um, let's go ahead and drop a 1 to 5 in the channel. How do you feel like you did? How far did you get? Five being like totally nailed it. Three meaning like you did the basics. Cool. Two, three, one. Fair. Totally fair. Awesome. Cool. That's to be expected. Sweet. That's where we're at. Cool. So yeah, I'm just gonna do a walkthrough of the requirements and do some code alongs and stuff. Is there any part of it, or rather, what part of it did you get hung up on? What did you find any instructions confusing? Did you get lost on what to do at all? Um, yeah, any of that. And you'd like to focus on.
For me, it was the second piece. Like, I had no issue getting to like post a new ramen or like pulling the existing stuff, but I couldn't figure out the like when you click it, it updates the
Yeah.
stuff. And then like a little piece, like I couldn't for the life of me get the comments to
Hmm.
post. Like I could get all the other parts of the object to post when I did a new one, but the comment just like wouldn't come through. So
I do mean sending the comment when you post it or getting it on the page when you do that.
when I post it, like when I fill out the form and
Mhm.
include a comment, like then it would go into DB JSON with all the stuff I put in, except the comments wouldn't be there.
Okay, cool. Um, interesting.
I
Let
had that same problem, and I realized it was because there's a hyphen in that. So I made a new variable that was getting that element separately and then using that.
Okay. Yeah, I tried. I just went into the index file and like took the hyphen out,
yeah, that'll
and
do.
it still like wasn't pulling them in though. So I'm not sure.
Cool. Yeah, when we get to that part, if I don't hit it, remind me, and we'll talk about.
Main concern though was the whole second chunk of clicking the
Cool. Fair, fair, fair. Um, sweet. Anything else y'all want to look at while we're looking through it?
I did just want to say that going like when I first kind of opened it up and was reading it, it was kind of like overwhelming my brain with like a million different things to do. And then like initially yesterday when we did the toy list thing, I thought like on like the readme, like going through and doing the numbering, like one, two, three, like what we have to do. I thought it was maybe like not gonna be as helpful. And then like doing it today on my own, I realized like it actually was like super important to just literally write down what it's asking me
Yeah, yeah,
step by step. So that kind of like helped me sort my brain and like just get me to start because I was a little bit just kind of like there's so much to do. I don't know where to start at the
yeah,
beginning.
for sure. Yeah. Um, yeah, and that can be an issue, not only with code challenges, but with anything, right? We just turns out programmers are not great at writing documentation sometimes. So sometimes it can be like half of the work is just like figuring out what to do at all in the first place. And with code challenges, especially like there's usually a like core deliverable section, kind of like ignore everything else and focus on that, and then you just break it apart and talk about that. But yeah, it's definitely a skill that you develop for sure. Cool. What else? We'll look at.
I got really hung up on trying to get all the ramen to render up top. And when I did get it going with the code I had, it only showed the last ramen.
Interesting.
And so I was I tried to create like a variable just kind of like inner or like an inner HTML for it.
Mhm.
And that I couldn't get that to work for the life of me. So I ended up just like kind of breaking it up and create each separate element. But
Hmm. I'm curious. I'd love to take a look at that and see how that did that. Yeah, but feel free to ask questions as we go along. Um, see if, or even if you like, oh, that's what I did. I'd love to see where that went on. Cool, cool, cool. Anything else you want to focus on or talk about before we jump in?
I totally tried to make the first one and the second one into the same thing,
Mm,
and it did not work out well because I was just like, I can just condense all of this, and then I just throwing so much air. I was like, okay, this definitely didn't work.
yeah, there's an instinct somehow, and I don't know if it's like a nerd culture thing or whatever to kind of like smash everything together. I definitely like I've definitely been a victim of that or victimized myself with that. And yeah, just taking the time to like pull it apart. And if I think the problem is like it feels like inefficient or whatever. Like programmers are supposed to like be able to make everything work on one line and have the least amount of code or whatever. But programmer time is way more valuable than computer time. So that's what rule two is. That's make it easy to understand, make it easy to change or work with or debug. And so pulling stuff apart is instead of smashing it together is definitely like another skill to develop for sure. Uh, cool. Anything else we want to take a look at before we jump in? Cool. Yeah, as always, feel free to ask questions, comment, ask for clarification and stuff as we go along. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here. There. Hide meeting controls. Come on, meeting controls. Go away. Sweet. So I've got this pulled down. I went ahead and moved my database out, so I don't have to fiddle with that during. And I'm gonna start up the JSON server. It's not necessary to move it out as long as you. Oh, geez, I don't know. Yeah, as long as you're not using live server, I guess. Cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at our data here. And this is what it looks like. We've got interesting. There's usually more. Did we take out a lot of the stuff? I don't know. Cool. So that is our sushi there. We are going to also kick off the live server. There it is. Sweet. Let's take a look at what we have. Oh, the ramen ran up the sushi saga. So many things. Ramen rater. Great. Let us take a look at what we need to do. So we've got it all done here. Great, good. So we've got our API here. We are using it there. And so the things we need to do are when the page loads, request the data and see all the images in the div with the ID of ramen menu. So we're going to put all those in there. And then display the image for each of the ramen using an image tag inside that. Great. So that means we're going to have to do our fetch. We're going to, for each one, do something to put it on the page like that, put the image on and all that. Second part is when we click on an image in that div, it's going to display that info. That sounds like where people got hung up a little bit. And that's totally understandable. And then the third part is doing a post, creating the ramen. Great. And oh yeah, so for this one, the ramen doesn't need to persist, which means you don't actually need to do a post request here. I don't think there might not be post requests on the challenge. A little weird. That's fine. We'll work along as we get it. So let's go ahead and do our first one. So we're going to be doing a load. We're going to go through each one and we're going to put them on the page. So let's go ahead and get started there. So let's see what we have. We've got our data. We saw our data. We've got our index here. And there's our menu. And we've got our JavaScript there. Fantastic. I'm going to make sure, yep, we have our defer in there. So let's see. Let's start off by, what do we want to do? let's start off by let's just grab that element so we have it at hand there. Um, so it's gonna be our ramen menu. Cool. We should be able to do that by now. Ramen menu element. I'm just gonna call it ramen menu. So I don't think we're gonna have a menu thing there. And we need our API as well. We've got that here. Ramens. Do, do, do. Great. Sweet. So now we can go ahead and do our fetch. And since it's a get, we don't need any gobbledygook in there. We're going to do our oops. Going to do our then. Do Sundance. And then let's just console log out the stuff to see that we got it. Nope. There we go. And if we pop open our console, there's our array of ramen. Great. Cool. So we've done our fetch, got our data. Now we can start working with our data. And what we want to do is, so we did the request, display the image for each of the ramen using an image tag inside the ramen menu div. Cool. So, and if we look at our data, again, that's the same data that we had in our API over here. So each one has a ID, comment, image, name, rating, and restaurant. So right now we only care about the image. Sweet. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say render ramens. How about that? And we'll write that function. Render. And that's going to take our call it JSON ramens, and we're going to just go through for each of those. And for each one, we're going to render ramen singular. Sweet. And here again, we can do a just to make sure that we have all the right stuff. Cool. And that's rendering each one out. So now we just need to, in here, create an image element, set the source to that image, and attach it to the menu. And this should be pretty straightforward to do by now. We've got our ramen menu. Let's create a ramen image. And we will set the source of that to the ramen image. And let's just append it to the ramen menu. Cool. Let's see where that gets us. Hey, look at that. Cool. So hopefully this is pretty straightforward by now.
Uh,
Yeah.
I thought so that's the way I ended up doing it, but I thought I was supposed to do like inner HTML and stuff, but that's exactly what I did to get it to work eventually.
Oh, nice. Oh, so you are probably setting the inner HTML of the ramen menu element.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Got it. Cool, cool. I'm glad we got that fixed. Sweet. So this is like the simplest case of getting data and putting on the page. Any questions before we move along? All right. Sweet. So let's go to our second requirement. And this is the one that we need to work on. So we're going to, when we click on an image from the ramen menu, we'll see all that info displayed inside the ramen detail. Great, the comment and the rating. So let's take a look at our page again. So we've got our images here. We have the detail here, and right now it is placeholder stuff. So what we want to do is we want to grab that detail div. We need to replace this image. Great, great. I would probably put an ID on there, but we can work with it. And insert the name and the restaurant. Yeah, interesting. Cool. And you know what? Let's do well. Yeah, let's do this. So let's grab our ramen detail for starters, and we're gonna need to do this when we're gonna need a clicky thing, right? So let's go ahead and add an event listener to there. And this is another case where we're going to need the ID the ramen data itself. So I'm going to write a function here that says render ramen details. Details. I'm going to take a ramen data here. So that's going to be one of those objects. And I'm just going to console log it out. Cool. So here is where we need to call that function with this object here. And so since we have the object in here, we can do this. So we're not even going to need the event after we click, right? Because the click is attached to this button. So I'm just going to write a arrow function that says render ramen detail with this ramen here. And again, because we are referring to this object inside another scope, inside that function, that's going to stick around even after this function exits. So this function is going to be called every time that we render one of the ramen images. In fact, I'm going to call this render ramen. Because that's what it's doing. So each time we render one of these, we're going to get that data. And so if we make a new function inside that function and use that data, it'll stick around forever until we get rid of these images, which we never will. Cool. So right now, we've added an event listener that's a click that's going to call this function with the data. And right now, we're just going to log it out to make sure that we are getting that data. So let's see. Click, 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 click. Great. That totally works. Sweet. So now we have a function that we can do stuff with the data. And so we want to take this data and shove it in here. So let's get down to business. So we have our ramen detail. So let's grab that. I'm going to grab it in here. We can grab it anywhere, but I'm just going to do it here because we're already here. I don't think we're using it anywhere outside of here, but if we do, we can move it around. It's code, not welding. So let's see, const detail equals ramen detail. Cool. So that's our element. And so in here we have a class for the image, a class for the name, and a class for the restaurant. I hate using classes. I'm going to go ahead and, well, you know what? Let's do it with classes here just because that's what we got. If this were my own code, I would add IDs to there instead. But let's see what it looks like to use the class. Because otherwise, yeah, I'd put in class detail image, or sorry, ID detail image and do the select on that. But here, let's do let's do a query selector. Why not? And we're going to look for detail image. You know, just to make sure I'm getting the right one. Console log it. Cool. So there's that image. So I'm just doing the select on the thing itself. You can do it wherever you like. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead instead of adding it to a or assigning it to a constant or variable. I'm just going to go ahead and set the stuff here because I think the only thing we need to do is change. Actually, we're going to need to change the alt as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Detail image. We'll do detail image. Detail image. We're going to set source to the ramen image, I think it was. Image, great. And the other one we're going to need is the alt. We're going to do that. And that is the name of the ramen. Cool. So that's the image. And let's do the same thing for the name and restaurant. And these are the ones I'm just going to go ahead and assign them on the fly. So name. And that's going to need text content sent. What's your name there? It's a restaurant there. Great. And same thing for restaurant. Cool. Let's test this part before we go forward. So we're doing the image, name, and restaurant. Hey, that looks like it works okay. If we inspect, we should see the alt there as well. Cool.
So for that part, I never changed the alt to the name. Is that what does that do?
Yeah. So an alt tag tells the browser, it describes the image. And so normally we don't see that in a browser like this, but it's really important to have for a lot of reasons. For accessibility. So if someone's using a screen reader, for example, it will read off the alt because clearly they can't see the image. So sight impaired users, very important for. Also, does anyone know who the largest sight impaired user of the internet is? Give you a hint, it's not a person.
Never mind.
Is it Google's web crawler?
Yeah, Google. That's right. Google cannot yet index the images, but it does index by text. So it's really good for SEO. So if you're describing your images with an alt tag, it's easier for search engines to find it if that's what you want. But in general, accessibility is a big deal for real applications. So that's why I was at the alt there. For this example or for this exercise, not 100% necessary. Just do it out of habit. Great question. What other questions do we have here? All right.
Can we hang on this page? I'm trying to follow along.
Yeah.
Making sure I get my understanding written down so I can read it a million times tonight.
Yeah. You want to talk through what it's doing here?
Yeah, that'd be helpful as well.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm gonna go start on line 16 here and say, so we're adding an event listener to the image that we have rendered in the like menu at the top.
Yep.
That click is going to launch a function, in this case called render ramen detail. And then inside of that function, we are saving the elements that we need to change, I think, into some constants. And then, so I guess a question here. So we've saved the overall element, the I think it was a div. We've
Mm.
saved the image. Why do we not need to do a const for like the P or whatever it is that is the name and the restaurant? So,
Yeah, we can totally do that. So we can say, consts, name elements. This, and then right. So these two things here are equivalent. Um, since we're only using it once, so the reason I pulled it out for the image is because we're setting two different things on it. Since we're only setting the text content, um, it and I know I said earlier you don't have to smash everything together. It's a matter of readability for me. For me, it's easier to say like, okay, we're getting the name element and we're setting the text content to that.
okay.
Um, if we were using this element more than once, totally, yeah, break it out. Or if it makes more sense to you to break it out, if it's easier for you to read and understand and change and debug, that is a super valid reason to break it out like that. But there's essentially no difference here except for we have kind of put in a an extra step just to clarify exactly what we're doing.
Okay, cool. No, that's helpful. Yeah, I feel just like in this point in my coding career, I feel like I'm doing everything long form just because then when I write a shortcut and then I go back to look at it, I'm like, what the hell did I do there?
Totally. And you'll definitely kind of grow into it when like after you write one of these 100 times, you're like, okay, I'm just going to do it in one line. I don't want to type that. Or if you wanted to get fancy going down the line, you could set a function, to like set element text, and you'd like element and text, right? And then you can say, element text content, or let's do this even ID, right? And we could do document get element by ID text content equals text. And so then if they were all indexed by IDs, then you could do just something like, oh, set element text, the thing to whatever. And so if you're doing this 50 times or a bunch of times, even this simple little abstraction into a function might help you out. But again, if that doesn't make any sense to you, don't do it. Just do the things that make it easy for you. There's no right or wrong way to do it as long as it works. It's just easier or harder, and easier or harder is different for every person.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Did that get you what you need out of walking through this?
I think so. I learned I named things differently in
Yeah.
mine. Making sure I have all the references correct in my own.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will definitely like go back and forth on names just because I've burned myself so many times in the past naming something like data and then going back and being like, what the fuck is data? So I try to name stuff so that if I look at just that line, I have a pretty good idea of what that variable is or what that function is. Um, Almost always name functions as verbs and variables as nouns, but yeah, do what works for you for sure. Cool. Thanks for asking. What other questions do we have? Okay, right on. Let's take a look at the rest of this one. So we need to insert the comment and insert the rating. And let's see. So these are not in the Ramen detail. So they are down below. And so the ID rating display, so we can get that rating and the comment display, great. So we can just get element by ID for those. just going to do that right here. Oh, and there's no real reason to select off of ramen detail instead of document. I just did that to make it clearer that those are inside that element. Um, they are poorly named, I think, but work with what we got. So I'm going to do a document get element by ID, and that's going to be our rating display and comment display. And I'm just going to go ahead and set the text content of those to our rating and our comment. Assuming those are the right things and those are named correctly. Our data, rating and comment, great. Let's see if that works. Hey, look at that. Picky point to notice is that in our data, the ratings are numbers, and clearly when we put it on a page, it's text. So JavaScript is smart enough to say, oh, when I'm trying to add a number to text, turn it into a string. Going the other way, you have to explicitly convert it to a number, but we don't need to worry about that here. Cool, but I think that takes care of our second deliverable there. Ratings, all that stuff. Cool. Any more questions before we move to the last recording there? All right, let's see what we got. Create a new ramen after submitting the new ramen form. This will be added to the ramen menu, and it doesn't need to persist, so we don't need to do a post here. I'm pretty sure, looking at this, there's not a post on the actual code challenge. I will verify that before sending it out. So, hey, we thought ahead and did a render ramen image. So now all we need to do is look at our form. We'll grab the form. We'll put a submit handler on it. And then we will create a ramen image or ramen object, sorry, and pass it to that. And hopefully everything should just go. So let's see what that looks like. Close it up there, close it up there, close it up there. So we're basically just gonna be creating data and then calling render ramen image. We're not doing a thing where we're storing the data and displays separately because this is a time crunch code challenge. I would probably do that out of instinct, but you're definitely not required to, especially since we won't be. Yeah. Cool. So let's get our form for starters. Here's our form, new ramen. I would call it new ramen form, but that's what we got. So let's see. Ramen. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and I'm just gonna move this up here for kicks. I'm gonna go ahead and add our event listener here. We're listening for a submit event. And you know what? Since we're only using this once, I'm just gonna go ahead and smack it on the end here. And we'll call it create new ramen. Cool. And that's going to be called when we submit that form, and that function is going to get past the event, the submit event. So we should be able to grab all the data off that event. So let's write it. Function. All right. So our event target is going to be our form. I'm just going to pull that out. And now we want to look at all these things. So since we have the form, we can grab these named fields and we want to get the value off of those. Name, restaurant, image, rating, new comment, not comment. Sweet. So let's go ahead and just create our new ramen object here. And so what do we have? We have a name, restaurant, image rating, name, rating, and new comment. Sweet. So, and we can see from the shape of our data here, we have name, restaurant, image, rating, and comment. Name, image, restaurant, rating, and new comment. I am going to change this in the form because that is inconsistent and really irritating. Cool. And so now we should just be able to do that. Because again, why name? Oh yeah, right. Never mind. Name is going to be event name. Restaurant is going to be restaurant. Image is going to be image. Nope, not event. Form. And comment is going to be comment. And if this was new comment, and we tried to do this, that would not work because there's a dash in there, and JavaScript does not see dashes; it sees minus signs. So it would try to subtract the value of comment, which is undefined, from form new, which is also undefined. So if we needed to do that, we would have to use bracket notation like that. But I'm just going to change the name of it because it's more consistent. Cool. So there is our new ramen object. And actually, let's console log that out. Make sure it's all good. Cool. Let's go to console and just add some stuff here. Ah, prevent event, prevent default. One more time. There we go. Cool. So now we have our object, and I moved it outside of the thing, so the server won't restart. And so now instead of console logging it, I'm just going to go ahead and render ramen image with that new ramen. And so since we've already written that, that should just go. Do I have an image of ramen? Not really. Have I done this before and have it saved in here somewhere? Maybe. Oh gosh, I wonder what these are. Okay. New ramen. Restaurant, my restaurant. And mine is the best. I guess it's 10 out of 10. And the best. Let's create it. Not found. Not found. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. HTML input element not found. Fascinating. Let's go back to console logging and see if we can step back where we were at. Okay, so we've got that object, right? Name, restaurant, image, image, rating, and comment. Is that what render ramen image is looking for? Render ramen detail, ramen name, ramen restaurant, ramen rating, ramen comment, ramen image. So where was it getting that? Let's actually look at. Let's actually look at the error again. Let's see where it was telling us. So render ramen image, line 16. Um, image. Fascinating. Mm, is it saying that that image is not found somehow? Hmm. I'm going to console log out my element, and I'm going to console log out my image and see if both of those what I expect them to be. And we know that those logs work. Great. Let's go ahead and do this and see where we go. So HTML input element. Why is it trying to set object input element? Because it's value. It's value. That's why I even said value and I didn't type it. There we go. Can't set things to a form field. Okay, let's try that again. New ramen. My restaurant. Let's hope that is a ramen image. What is it? It's Jesse. Oh, cannibalism. Great. Cool, but that seems like it worked. Once you get the values instead of just the forms. So yeah, new Jesse ramen on the menu. Cool. So I'm just gonna take those console logs out. And I think that does it for us. And she is not saved to the database because it said, don't worry about it. So I'm not going to. Um, cool. And that is the code challenge for this one here. If you want to do a post, I'm not going to stop you. Extra credit's always good. Um, sweet. What questions do we have here? Where do we get stuck up on the actual practice challenge?
I think I have like almost verbatim the same code as you because I wrote I wrote the rest of it after time's up. But again, I got hung up on that inner HTML in like the first part.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's an easy mistake to make. It's just a matter of like just like I did here, just a matter of paying attention and picking through uh, you know, console logs. I console log everything out just to see where I'm at. Um, and so like in your case, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna console log out the in my render image, I'll log out the ramen to make sure I'm getting the right object. Okay, all those objects look good. Um, what am I appending it to? Let me console log out the ramen menu. Oh, that's what I'm trying to add it to that instead of this. So yeah, debugging is half of programming, at least.
Yeah, I had an instance of like I turned to Google and I was like trying to put the right make the images clickable, and it's like, oh, put on click inside of your like inner HTML for the image. And so I was spent the last like 40 minutes messing with that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, in 1998 that was fine, but don't really do that anymore. Some other questions or comments?
Would there also be another way to do this if you turn the image into a button, or do we want to like avoid that kind of route in this case?
Um, I think I know what you're asking, but can you say a little bit more about that?
When I was doing like the inner HTML, when I was trying to add like a button, and then inside the button I was going to add an image tag. So that's why I was thinking like, okay, if I don't do this, I'm going to have like all these other functions and stuff to do it.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's no reason you can't. It might look weird, um, but as long as you got a click handler on that image there, I mean, that'll do it. There's no need to, like, there's nothing special about a button that is clickable. Anything that you put an event listener on, whether it's a button or an image or the body of the page, you can put a click handler anywhere. Buttons are just like a way to display that particular kind of thing.
Yeah. I did that, John, for like the, kind of pre-work project on my little blog thing I made. I made images, buttons, and it worked, but it just like never looked
Yeah.
sexy. It just all looked a little off.
Yeah, I was like checking the CSS styling too, just to see like, okay, like is this even a thing?
Yeah, and like you could totally style a button to look like whatever you want. But if you don't need a button, you don't need a button.
Could you combine your two functions here? The render ramen detail and the render ramen image.
Can you say that again?
Could you combine both of those functions?
Like just put this function here?
Yeah. No, like just the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah, because the rendered detail there is going to only kick off when you click the button, right? So that needs to, if we just put all this stuff here afterwards without the listener, it would like quickly render each detail as it put each image on the page, and then there would be nothing to click. But if if you just replace just the image with, or just the handler with the text of that function, like you can totally do that. Um, but it's for me, it's easier to read separated out. But if it works, it works. Is that what you were asking?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
On line 17, instead of using append, I did append child there. Is there any real difference between doing those two?
Very, very subtle difference. In most cases, it doesn't matter at all. The main difference between append and append child is that append will let you append text. So if I wanted to append, whatever, that will create a text element and put it in there. Whereas append child will not. So append child, you need to like create something in there and set the content to it. But also append is 5 less characters to type. So my lazy fingers like this one, but mostly they're almost exactly identical. What else we got? All right. Cool. Well, this is pretty much what it's going to look like. Anything else that we need to talk about for it? Uh, no, yeah, I think it's going to be real close to this. Um, there might be like a like button or something similar on the challenge. Maybe not. I'll see which one we're going to do. Um, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be a post patch or anything like that. So yeah, as long as you're good with get and DOM manipulation and events, you should be all right to go. Uh, yeah. Any questions before we head out? I guess feels like enough about this or about the actual challenge or anything else.
I know you entered this in the past, but notes on it, yes, no?
Say
Are
that.
we allowed to use notes on the actual challenge?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Just don't copy paste code, because that's always dangerous. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, treat it as if you're doing this at a job.
I don't really want to ask this question, but in the case that can't figure it out tomorrow,
Mhm.
and you have to redo it, like I think then on Friday, is it the same challenge we would do, or is it a different one? And like, what kind of, review and assistance do we get like in the time period between
Yeah.
the
So the retake will be next Thursday, so you'll have a week
holy
review,
okay.
and it'll be a different challenge, but they're all about the same kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got a full week, and we'll definitely do a review for folks who need review.
Whole week for better or for worse? I'm not sure yet.
Yep. Yep. And I think let me double check the calendar. I believe we're going to be doing our blog presentations on Monday as well. Is that right? Am I lying? Am I looking at the right calendar? Um,
I see it on Tuesday on
Yeah,
mine.
Tuesday. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so you'll have the weekend to do that. It's pretty chill. So yeah, plenty of time to review.
For the blog posts.
Mhm.
Is it what were the minimum requirements on that one?
Just writing a blog on some subject related to what we're doing. So that can either be a technical blog about something you've learned, or talking through something new that you want to talk about, or even just like talking about your experience in the first week of the course, if you like. I think if I didn't send out the spreadsheet, I'll send it out. There's a bunch of example blogs on there. I'll send that out tomorrow after the challenge, so don't worry about it until after then.
And that needs to be done by Tuesday.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, uh, a page or two, a couple pages of writing. Should go pretty fast. And yeah, it's super. It's as long as it's done, it's good. It doesn't need to be good to be done. Cool. Anything else before we wrap it up? Sweet. Cool. Thanks for hanging out and doing the review stuff. I'll post the video. I'm not going to link the code because it's good to go through it yourself. Um, yeah, and I'll put that on the playlist and on the channel. And as usual, if you have any other questions, give me a holler and we'll talk through something. All right. Cool. I'll see y'all in a little bit.